Nothing on the 16 strong man?
I typed in 16 strong men, came up, I listened to hers.
Just type up my name and I have.
I did that.
Dates.
I typed in, I got a whole bunch of stuff. I typed your name in, looked under all of yours.
I don't know how I
Put the,
look. I'm trying to get this
You'll
thing.
scratch
Sorry,
the
y'all.
screen doing that. That's why I had.
Just double. Just with
It won't do it.
won't do it.
You have to put this over
You'll
it so it
scratch it?
doesn't scratch the screen.
How do I look? I don't even know how I look. If I'm sitting here, look all right?
I can see it.
Great.
That's good out like that.
Thank you. Okay. You want to bless us with the blowing of the shofar first.
Okay. Like if. Don't look. Are you looking?
I'm looking at you.
Okay, look at me.
I am looking at you.
It looks like you're looking up on here.
I probably am. Now I'm looking at now I'm looking at the camera. So how's that look?
That looks fine if you're looking at the camera. If you look at me, it looks like you're talking like
I
that.
know. Like I look up here.
Up to the sky.
So look down into the camera.
I can't always look at the camera. I'm gonna look at them. So
Okay.
yeah.
Look out at us now.
He's so fine.
You got him. It looks like
Look
you're
down,
looking
look
up.
down,
You
look
got
at me.
you gotta look. You gotta look down at the
I
camera.
am looking at you.
Does it look like she's looking down,
Yeah.
No, not really.
Oh, it looks like she's looking out.
You gotta look into the camera. You gotta play into the camera.
Because it
We'll,
don't
we'll
look right.
As
understand.
It don't look right if you be looking off over here and talking to some, yo,
Look at. You have to look into the camera.
I'm not gonna. How about I sit back? How does that look?
Really far away, I can't even see you.
Really?
If I sit it like that, it would look just fine.
Careful. Don't let anything fall.
What did you do here?
I
Okay.
actually work from home for Aetna Health Insurance.
That looks better.
Oh, you do that?
Don't look up. You're looking up again.
It's
You have to
okay.
look into the. You have to look. There's no way around
I've
it.
been doing that.
You gotta look into the camera.
Whatever. I'm not gonna worry about it.
Okay.
That's being recorded. The main information is being recorded. Okay. So go ahead, honey.
It started already?
It's on Periscope. You don't click
Okay.
record. It's automatic. All this is being recorded.
Yeah, but you can title it. Yeah. Okay, whatever.
I already titled it.
All right. Okay. Let's stand for the lesson.
Oh, you understand?
You can sit down because, see, now you missed it. As Scripture commands us, we blow the holy shofar to ensure ourselves of the battle, of the victory in the battle. We don't have to ensure ourselves of the battle because that's coming, but of the victory. We blow the holy shofar. As one preacher once said, there is no victory without the battle, and no spoils without the victory. So the reason why we have battles and things to overcome is so that we can get the victory, so that we can get the spoils or the proceeds of the battle. But if we don't enter into the battle and become victorious, then we get nothing. We stay in the same position that we've always been. We keep going around the mountains as if we keep wandering 40 years in the wilderness on a 2-week trip. And I'm getting a little tired of going around the mountain myself. I don't know about you guys. Okay? So we want to enter into spiritual warfare. We're coming up on the fall feast, the new year, 5777, in just about a little over 30 days, maybe 32, 33 days. It's going to be Rosh Hashanah, New Year's. And so I want to end this year with a bang and go into the new year with a bigger bang. We're doing some spiritual warfare, because I want to get what's mine. Okay? Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitchenu b'mitzvotah v'tzivanu al mitzvah shofar v'shem Yeshua. Amen.
Amen.
Scatter your enemies over.
Amen.
Been practicing on the didgeridoo too much this week.
You got yourself. Amen.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Amen. Thank you.
When we blow that, just like, you can be seated, just like the Israelites did when they walked around the walls of Jericho and blew the shofar, and the walls came down. So whatever walls are in our life that are preventing us from getting to where we want to go, they will have to come down, whether it's
Amen.
walls against our health, against our prosperity, against our peace. When we blow the shofar and you listen to the shofar in faith and you put your faith with my faith, your intent, then things are going to happen. If they don't happen, it's just like Scripture said. You have not because you ask not. When you don't set your intent, when you just come to service and you just kind of, okay, oh, that's a good teaching. You got to come to service with something on your mind. You got to come to service trying to accomplish something. I'm going to this service, and here's what I want out of it. You have to have expectation. That desire is asking. You have to have that expectation. There has to be a reason for coming. You have to have something on your mind. I'm going to church. I'm going to enter into battle, because praise and worship is warfare. So when I come here, I'm going to enter into praise and worship. I'm going to enter into the battle. You cannot enter the presence of God and not receive something.
Amen. That's so
It's impossible.
right.
But you can't get into the presence unless you come giving praise and thanksgiving, doing praise and worship. When you're praising and giving thanks, what are you praising Him for? That's setting your intent. That's having a focus. That's, saying, I want something. Because God is going to look at your need. Okay, He's praising me for this. She's praising and thanking me for what? Whatever. If you don't have it yet, you should be praising and thanking God for it. I know you're going to come through, Lord. Thank you. If you have it, you should be giving Him the praise on it.
Okay.
Unless you start coming with that intent and that focus, you're going to keep going around the mountain.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank y'all for being here.
Do the introductions. Let
Thank
them know who
you.
we are.
I just was thanking them for being here first, because we don't take your presence here for granted. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. And I am Nevaeh Leslie. I like to be called Sister Leslie. And my dear husband is Rabbi Shalicha Vincent Adams, who is quite comfortable in front of the camera and is very natural at his teaching. I don't get up too often to teach. So I am very, happy to be able to sit here and tell you about the Jezebel and the Ahab spirit today, on this night. And if you all are ever wondering about what's been going on, why does the world seem to be so, evil or sick, and people's ideas, it really isn't just the world, it's the way people in our country specifically are thinking, the way they're thinking. Why does the government seem to be pushing for things that clearly are not going to bring good fruit into our country? They're pushing for same-sex marriage. They're pushing for all the LGBT rights. Not to say they shouldn't have rights, but in terms of having to have the ability to relabel what marriage is, changing what God has ordained, anything that has to do with changing what the Creator has created and perverting it. We seem to be sitting back wondering, why is so much of this going on, and we see this on the news every day. You're about to find out why. Jezebel and Ahab spirits are quite active in our country and over our government. And it's not going to get any better. In the Bible, King Ahab, I'm going to read some of these things to you. In the Bible, King Ahab broke God's laws by marrying Jezebel, who was a non-Israelite who worshipped Babylonian gods and goddesses. And so you can read that in 1 Kings 16:31. And God considered him the most evil king ever in his time, up to his time. There was none more evil than King Ahab, before King Ahab was king. So he soon became an ardent worshiper of Jezebel's his wife's deities. And you can read that in 1 Kings, just read 1 Kings 16, okay? Jezebel was a beautiful woman, and Ahab was a pushover for sex. He gave way to sexual lusts, and he participated in ceremonial sex orgies that were part of the worship of Ashtaroth, the demon wife of Baal. And Baal is a general name given to Babylon's male deities. And it said that groves were places of sexual orgies, replete with huge carvings of sexual organs. And Ahab gladly joined in on all the fun. Jezebel was the chief priestess of the cult of Ashtaroth, which featured temple prostitution, ceremonial sex orgies, and all manner of sexual promiscuity, including incest, pornography, adultery, fornication, infant sacrifice, and disdain for marriage. So we can see a lot of these things kind of happening in our laws, okay? What we see on TV, they're pushing it. I don't watch TV anymore. I have literally stopped watching TV. I will watch some news here and there just to make sure I'm kind of in touch with what is really going on in our world, so we know how to pray. But when I don't know, the first show where they were trying to show the homosexuals as if it was a natural thing, I'm like, couldn't get with that. It's not a natural thing, but they want you to accept it. We're living in a fallen world. They're going to make you try to accept things that are from the tree, what you say, I guess you could say, the tree that you don't want to eat from. The tree of knowledge. I say tree of knowledge, good and evil, tree of life. You want to eat from the tree of life. Anything that has darkness, you can tell it's not going to bear much fruit. You don't want to take part in it. You don't want to encourage. But our world does. So here we are. So Ahab's marriage to Jezebel was a union made in hell. Okay? It was with Ahab-infested men. It is today with Ahab. They call it Ahab-infested men today who love pornography, who love masturbation, who love fornication, and they love adultery and a host of other sexual activities. Okay? So Jezebel and Ahab operate together. They are one. They are behind abortions in our country, in our world. They're behind them. They're into infant sacrifice. Abortion is infant sacrifice. Okay? It's not just a choice. You're sacrificing your child. It is, Jezebel and Ahab together are behind mind-altering drugs. Okay? That comes from the forerunners of Babylonians and Mesopotamians. They invented cocaine. And Jezebel and Ahab are behind homosexuality, the disdain for marriage, illegitimate children, astrology that is not of God, just for the purpose of foretelling the future. Non-biblical astrology.
Astrology is not bad in and of itself.
Biblical astrology is what the wise men, which we call, knew. And the magi. How do you say that? Magi. I say magi, which is magician, which is where magician came from, but magi. But there is an astrology we're forbidden to do, and that is where you're using the stars and to foretell who you are, or to tell your future, things that God did not ordain it for you to use it for. It's information, but we're not supposed to be controlled by it. Okay? And that's where people get into trouble. They want to know what their sign is. That's another teaching. So they're behind astrology and related occult activities. Violence. They're also behind violence and murder, female dominance, and weak men. The spirit of Jezebel is a ruler in Satan's kingdom, perhaps of the highest rank among Satan's strongmen. Her predecessors, one of which was the original queen of Babylon, was called the goddess of 1,000 names, including Astar, Sibyl, queen of heaven, Virgin Mother of God, Madonna, Athena, Pele, Mother Kali, Kuan Yin, Ishtar, and the Mother of Wisdom, and all many other kinds of names. So Jezebel is a spirit of witchcraft, mind control, manipulation, and a nest of related spirits. The companion spirit to Jezebel is the spirit of Ahab. Men can have Jezebel too. It's a spirit. So spirits can have it male or female. Okay? And just because it's called Ahab doesn't mean it has to be just for men only. Just because it's the spirit of Jezebel doesn't mean it's just on women only. There can be crisscross. Okay? Men can have the Jezebel spirit. Women can have an Ahab spirit. I think people can even have both. I don't know. So we refer to Jezebel here as she. We'll say she. Men can have a Jezebel, perhaps they say 95% of the time it dwells in women. You can read, I don't know how you're going to decide a percentage. We don't know percentages. But it has here 95% of the time. Okay? For women. You can read about Jezebel and Ahab in 1 Kings 16 and to the end of 1 Kings 22. And women in the Jezebel spirit are demanding. This is how you recognize women with a Jezebel spirit. Do you want to know? Who has a Jezebel spirit? Do you know somebody with a Jezebel spirit? Well, a woman or man, I'll say, with a Jezebel spirit are demanding, they're controlling, and they're manipulative. She can also be seemingly soft-spoken and clingy, but in the final analysis, she's always getting her way. She always gets her way. What do you think of, right off the bat? Nobody? Nothing? Can I have a bit of guts and say Hillary Clinton?
No, that's why I said Clinton.
Oh, you said Clinton? I said nothing.
Clinton.
Right. There we go. I think a lot of people already know that. You don't have to agree with us, but yeah.
Several women in politics are that way.
Right.
And I would say probably most of the women in the women's rights movement.
Mm-hmm.
Not that women shouldn't have rights to vote or
Right.
all of those things, and yes, they push that, but they also push for the murder of children.
Right.
As
The
children.
Planned Parenthood kind of thing and all
Yeah.
that. Right. Sure. So women such as these, who always want to get their way, they're always demanding and controlling, manipulative. They also have a strong spirit of rejection, which makes sense. We talked about the spirit of rejection several weeks ago, for several weeks. So you can look back on our videos about a spirit of rejection, which is probably just look on our YouTube channel, and you'll see our teachings on the spirit of rejection. And they also have a strong spirit of unforgiveness and bitterness against male authority. Mother is very often a person with that spirit too, controlling and manipulative, their mother. She's the boss of the family. The father is laid back. He's a nice guy and in his own world. He's also a victim of rejection too. Women tend to counter rejection by becoming controlling and manipulative and aggressive because of that. And while men tend to have many fears and they become non-aggressive, lacking ambition, and they're lazy and irresponsible. A Jezebel wife does it all. Jezebel usually marries a man who has the Ahab spirit in him. She needs someone to play the clown. And he is a nice guy, but the wife is the spiritual one. She's the prophetess and the one who receives visions, dreams, and words from God. The husband usually does not. He is the unspiritual supporter of Jezebel. Jezebel in the church loves to cozy up to the pastor or the leaders. And her intent is to control and ruin the church. It's not to build it up. So we're recognizing these traits, okay? They're not trying to add by being harmonious and trying to draw people in together in unity. They kind of cause division. In the guise of trying to help. They cause confusion or chaos in the guise of helping. Okay? Like I said, they get cozy up to the leaders of the church or the pastors so they can have their voice to cause, to say things and plant seeds of poison in the minds of the leaders. Okay? There are many holy and righteous women, but Jezebel is self-promoting and self-glorifying. She seeks to rule. And she will attend almost every meeting, promote her spiritual ideas, and control through prophecy, and is known as a spiritual leader by others. And she is cunning. Most of the time, the women with the spirit have no idea what is motivating or controlling them. They really don't. They have no idea. And if you try to tell them, you got a Jezebel spirit, they'll be like, they don't know. They're like, no, I don't. Because in their heart, they feel that they are so, helpful. Okay, but they are self-promoting. They are self-glorifying. So look for that. Now, before you even think about casting out the spirit, you have to cast out first their servants. It's like, now this kind of goes backwards from what we used to teach. We always talk about when you're trying to cast out a demon or a spirit, you cast them out by the head, not the tail, right? That way all the others underneath them, the hierarchy, the lower demons who are attached to the spirit, the head demon, stronghold, strong man, which like say the spirit of rejection was a strong man, all the little demons of underneath rejection, which would be self-hatred or I don't know.
I went over that in the spirit of rejection.
Normally we would take it out by the head. This is saying before you cast out.
Right up there in front of you, up under everything, of the spirit of rejection.
Well.
I went over the roots,
okay.
the tree and everything.
Sure can't read that, thanks.
When I did the spirit of rejection, I went over all of that.
Okay. Well, normally we're supposed to take out by the head. Like I said, with spirit of rejection, you have root causes of spirits of low self-esteem, inferiority complex, fear of failure, things like that. You would just cast out spirit of rejection, it would take care of all those other little things. This is saying something different. This is saying before you can cast out the spirit of Jezebel out of somebody, you have to first cast out all the little servants, the subordinate spirits under the control of this ruler spirit. Because she's the queen and she has many spirits under her, such as unforgiveness, hatred of father, hatred of men, bitterness, rejection, rebellion, and fear of men and other spirits that are all related to rejection and the root of bitterness. So you've got a strong root of bitterness, you can have a party with the spirit of rejection, just a party coming in. And now she will push her subordinates to the surface while she hides in her dungeon. That's how they operate. They push the little ones up. And sometimes she's seen in the spirit as an overweight, naked woman with attendants combing her hair and fussing with her. That's kind of the image they paint of Jezebel. An overweight, naked woman with people just daunting over her while she's, being taken care of. They're fussing with her. At other times, she is seen as a black widow spider with the face of a beautiful woman with dark black hair or bright red lips. And she can also appear as a beautiful young girl who can suddenly twitch into an old hag. This is all in the spirit, seeing things in the spirit. Now, in the Bible, Jezebel was a murderous spirit. Don't forget that. All right, she killed Naboth in order to steal his vineyard and the reins of the kingdom at the same time. So Ahab tactically gave approval and his seal to Jezebel because she had the guts. He didn't.
What was the name of the man that she killed for his vineyard?
Naboth.
You spell that?
Naboth. N-A-B-O-S. B-O-T-H. N-A-B-O-T-H. Naboth.
Naboth.
Okay? So,
She did it herself?
yeah. She was a murderess. She killed Naboth in order to steal his vineyard and the reins of the kingdom at the same time. So Ahab, yeah, she was. So Ahab said, okay, you go for it, letting her do her deed. Instead, Ahab pouted and he would not eat. Well, hold on. Let me go back. Ahab tactically gave approval and his seal to Jezebel because he had no guts, he had no brains to get the vineyard of Naboth on his own. Jezebel was trying to convince him to go get it, but he didn't want to do that, so she took over. Yeah. So Ahab men are crybabies, they say. Ahab men are crybabies, they're ineffective, compared to Jezebel. Jezebel will do just about anything to take over and have control of the family, the church, or workplace. And she's usually ambitious, intelligent, and aggressive. She's either stupid or wimps. And she resents having to cater to or bow to men. She resents it. Okay? It irks her to no end that most societies favor males. Don't like that at all. God's kingdom order, though, is reversed in an Ahab-Jezebel family. God has his kingdom in order for a reason, and we have to cry out for his order to be established in families and in communities and in our government. Okay? This is not to say a woman cannot be a leader. A lot of leader women in the church. But you have to understand the order and authority that God has ordained for women and for men, so there is harmony and the blessings flow without obstruction. Okay? It's all about blessings flowing. Okay? He has an order. So, spiritually, you have to go after the spirit of Ahab in the husband. He is the one that allows Jezebel to operate in his family. An Ahab husband could appear physically strong and manly, but inside he is a mama's boy. Inside he hates to fight and argue with his wife, so he takes the easy way out and he caves in to her most of the time. And he will give up his rightful and God-given authority. The wife can be 5 feet tall and the husband over 6 feet in height, but she is the one that is the bully. The children of this relationship of Ahab and Jezebel spirit, the children of that relationship are very confused usually. Often they're confused. The daughters often take after their mothers and the sons after their fathers. Daughters may sometimes become lesbians and sons become the homosexuals. Divorce is prevalent in the family, and the mother is the spiritual head instead of the father, who was called by God to be the head priest of the family. In Ephesians 5:22, you can read God's order of that. A Jezebel spirit actually hates women and brings about diseases of the reproductive tract. If you have any problems, chronic with your reproductive system, you might want to renounce the spirit of Jezebel in your family line. It doesn't mean that you have that full-blown Jezebel spirit, but it could be actually affecting you through your family line. So you want to take that in consideration. All right. So they bring about diseases in the reproductive tract, barrenness, excessive bleeding, irregular periods, tumors, cancers of the uterus, ovaries, and breast. Of course.
So you're saying that
the Jezebel spirit hates women. That'll cause you to have problems with your.
Are you saying that if a woman has a Jezebel spirit, she's going to have these physical problems to go with?
Usually, yes. It makes sense. If you have issues with your maternal self, which is going to be your mother, your grandmother, or anything coming down, you're going to end up causing sickness in those areas that have to do with your maternal nature. Okay? It's the cause of disease in your maternal nature and your ability to reproduce. So you might want to forgive all your grandmothers and grandfathers and mothers and the whole generational line. If there's any type of hatred toward men and the Jezebel spirit is prevalent in your family, you want to renounce that. An Ahab husband capitulates and allows Jezebel to rule by default because Ahab is irresponsible and he passes on the buck. God dealt with King Ahab long before he brought judgment against Jezebel in the end. The Ahab men will be held responsible by God. This is not to say that men should become male Jezebels. God requires much love by the husbands for their wives. Lack of love often opens the door for Jezebel. And his insecure wives are often forced to protect themselves by becoming controlling and bossy. You may make an inner vow. If you did not receive the love that you needed from your father or from another male figure and you became bitter because of it, because it causes you to have insecurities, if you're not affirmed and loved by the man who has the authority in your whole life and family growing up, you could grow bitter. You could become angry and decide to make bitter inner vows, saying, "I'll just take care of myself. I don't need a man." And a lot of women are very happy to say, I don't need a man. But you have to check yourself and make sure you're not saying that out of bitterness, anger, unforgiveness, because you're feeding into that Jezebel spirit. You're feeding into all kinds of issues with your body. Not with just your body, but your mind, your spirit, in every way. So, if you say you don't need a man, maybe you don't. Maybe you're supposed to be a nun, But don't do it out of bitterness. Do it because you love, no matter what, you just love. And you love yourself and you have faith in God that you can go on in your life as single, if you're so called in that way. So lack of love, like I said, opens the door to Jezebel. As insecure wives are often forced to protect themselves. They become controlling and bossy. And in Satan's kingdom, the women do rule. There are at least 10 female witches for every male warlock, so they say. But not to worry, Satan and Ahab have plans. They are just temporarily using women for their own gain. And when the time is right, they will toss Jezebel women aside. In Revelation 17:16, you want to read. Ahab men used Jezebel wives to shelter them against having to go out into the world and confront all their inner fears. They are often irresponsible cowards. Many give only lip service to a belief in God. The wife hauls the kids to the church while the father watches TV. Think about that. He will often come to church or use the name of Jesus just to gain something for himself. So it's only easy to cast out Jezebel based on how strong the Jezebel spirit is. If it's a weak Jezebel spirit, it's easy to cast out. On a scale of 1 to 10, a 5 is fairly strong, and 8 is into Satanism and out witchcraft. A woman desiring to be rid of this insidious demon or demons must repent and seek to submit and obey male authority. Although this may be very difficult, where husbands continue to give in to the Ahab spirit, humility is the key. You have to show humility. That sometimes the spirit will pretend that it has left, but it really hasn't. They play hide and seek. They hide, they lay dormant for a while, make you think that you're okay, because it's a strong spirit to kick out. And Jezebel will kick out some lesser spirits, such as rejection, sexual abuse, hatred of father, hatred of men, in her place, and then hide. But if you keep binding her up and commanding her to come out in Yeshua's name, she will suddenly manifest and start screaming.
Yes, you mentioned earlier what you're reading there says that you have to cast out these lesser spirits before you get to the head with Jezebel and Ahab. And our training,
Right.
we were taught you go for the head, you cast it out by the head. As I hear you read more, I would insert the caveat that you still cast it out by the head, but remember the little thing, that even before you cast it out by the head, you have to deal with the legal ground.
Absolutely.
So that unforgiveness and bitterness is not so much that you're casting out this lesser spirit, but you have to get to the root.
I'll stress
You
that,
have to destroy the legal ground, and then once you destroy the legal ground, then you go for the head. You go, because Proverbs 26:2, a curse without a cause will not come. So you have to deal with that cause. And this particular individual they don't realize that they are really destroying legal ground. And they may miss it, or their deliverance session will be a lot longer because they don't really recognize the mechanics of this and what they're doing. You have to destroy when you destroy the legal ground, sometimes it comes out all by itself. You almost don't even need to call it out. Because if it can't, it has to obey Proverbs 26:2. It can't remain there if there's no cause for it to be there. If the legal ground has been destroyed, unforgiveness, bitterness, if that's been destroyed, it has to go.
Right.
Whether you
That-
call it out or not, you don't even have to call it out. It just has, you can get into the law of attraction at that point. The frequency of the individual is much higher. And so therefore, it just has to leave.
It does get into that. The caveat, just saying to insert, is already there. It's just I haven't
Okay.
read it yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But we're kind of running out of time, so
You've done a lot of good information.
there's a lot in here, basically to help you recognize Jezebel and Ahab, how they work together, what to look for, how they get in the first place, and how to avoid it or how to get rid of it. All right, I'll read this part again. The ease of casting out Jezebel depends on how strong the Jezebel spirit is. Humility is the key. It will pretend it has left when it hasn't. It'll kind of push out these little demons of sexual abuse and rejection, hatred of a father or men in her place, so she can just hide. The Jezebel is a very, very clever and intelligent and cunning spirit. She can make a person very intelligent. When Jezebel was, I'll read the story. She says the story of a pastor related to her that he once had a 14-year-old girl in his church that could multiply 5 numbers by another 5 numbers and give the correct answer in seconds. And when Jezebel was cast out, she had difficulty multiplying 2 numbers by 2 numbers. Jezebel makes females very intelligent and ambitious. She also produces lesbians and homosexuals. We've said that. All right. In the church, Jezebel will strive for recognition and control, wanting and desiring to take over prayer ministry, Sunday school, or some music worship group. She craves attention and she craves worship for herself. Okay? Spiritually, she kills the prophets and the priests. She does not like the prophets, the voice of God speaking to his prophets. Jezebel wants to shut them up real good. We know this. As in the days of Elijah the prophet, Jezebel killed as many of God's prophets and priests as she could. If the affected woman is beautiful, she can be a seducer of men and male leaders, creating career-ending scandals. She works to kill and destroy the church and the leadership, but nobody sees her. It says, "None seeth me" in Isaiah 47:10, talking about Jezebel. And she is usually behind in the scenes somewhere, but she's making an impact. She's behind church divisions, discords, and splits. Church splits. Churches where they just absolutely split up. She's a gossiper. I hate gossip. She's a gossiper or talebearer that brings strife. You got somebody who comes in, and I can tell you stories of someone I know very, very well, trying to tell me things, trying to cause strife between Vincent and I and what we were doing in ministry. Always bringing questions and arguments based on whatever scripture Vince was teaching or principle Vince was teaching. This person always seemed to want to come to me and tell me, "You really think that's right? You should be doing this, you should be doing that." And God is giving him all kinds of great revelation for us to grow, and really walk in his word, as unlike other churches where it comes to knowing God's feast days. No, that wasn't here. That's back in Tulsa. I started back in Baton Rouge, actually. But anyway. They just will go to the pastor's wife or the pastor directly, trying to cause division, talking about other people, trying to say so-and-so is doing this and thinking that, and maybe you should do this so that does not, whatever kind of crazy stuff to cause strife. So Jezebel loves to control the church through prophecies because she calls herself a prophetess. In Revelation 2:20, a Jezebel woman, it says here in an audience, this lady was telling her testimony, there was a Jezebel woman in the audience staring at her, and gray worms of death came out of her eyes and floated out to her behind the podium in the spirit realm. She could see things in the spirit realm, obviously. She sends death against the prophet and priest. You have to learn to bind up the spirit of death, call down the fire from heaven to destroy the worms of death when you acknowledge that there's a spirit of Jezebel operating in your church or around you. Call down the fire of heaven and apply the blood of Yeshua every time. The life is in the blood of Yeshua. Jezebel will use money, flattery, and seduction wherever possible to gain control of the church. And she desires recognition in order to control and will strive for the spotlight. They will appear to be very, very spiritual, very, very knowledgeable, and insightful. So be careful. So God, of course, does not like or just hates this spirit. The Lord said in Revelation 2:18-29 that He promised to destroy Jezebel and all of her children. And you think about how God thinks about that. All right.
He's killing our kids too.
No, Jezebel's spiritual. We're talking about spiritual children. Those.
What she produces.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
God promises that all who overcome Jezebel will have the power over the nations. It says in Revelation 26:28, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, as the vessels of the potters shall they be broken into shivers, even as I received of my Father, and I will give him the morning star. So church leaders who cannot handle Jezebel cannot handle nations either. It takes a strong and ruthless determination to rid the church and members of the ugly spirit Jezebel. All right. I'm going to skip some of this I'm reading here. Very repetitive. Not saying much else after that. I'm looking for Ahab. People try to say that Adam and Eve were like the first Ahab and Jezebel. Of course, we notice it's kind of far-fetched to say that, I think. Even though they rebelled against God and they ate of the forbidden fruit, and Eve was the one that brought it to Adam to eat, and Ahab didn't do the thing to cover her and take his authority, he kind of just followed Eve's lead. Okay, which is going against God's order. So he was not responsible. In those ways, you can see some parallels between Ahab and Jezebel. But it says they kind of got cowardly. They hid, which cowardice, when God showed up after eating the forbidden fruit. You could almost see that was Ahab and Jezebel working through Adam and Eve. All right, so this last part is deliverance from the spirit, as they say, can be very exhaustive and daunting. But God, Yahweh, He will anoint those that desire to do battle against the spirit. It is not like there's no hope. You have to be wanting to be built up in your spirit and fast, pray. Start off by having the woman who may have the Jezebel spirit to forgive, help the person forgive everyone that has ever hurt her in her past, especially her father. That would be, I think it'd be obvious. Make sure that they have dealt with issues with their father. And any other male figures in their lives. Well, if they didn't have a father, then they have a stepfather. Then their uncle will have to raise them. Whatever it is. Break those curses that come from unforgiveness, all down the generations. That's number 2. Have it repent of any controlling and manipulative behavior and witchcraft. Manipulation is as witchcraft. If someone is just really good at manipulation, we're practicing witchcraft. All right, so have them repent of that. For bind up and cast out the spirits of rejection and unforgiveness, spirits of bitterness, spirits of the fear of man, spirits of the hatred of men. Have them renounce or bind them up and cast them out in Yeshua's name. And also cast out spirits of sexual abuse. Many, many times these days, many women are being sexually abused, which causes a wide open door for bitterness and unforgiveness and the spirit of Jezebel to come in to give them control that they felt that they did not have. So the enemy will lie to you and make people think that they don't have control. So the spirit of Jezebel will come and say, I'll help you with that. And a lot of women will go along with it. Instead of understanding forgiveness is the most important thing, and walking in humility and knowing that God is in control and being safe and secure in God's promises and His Word is the only way to be able to move forward and renounce these things. All right. What is the last thing I want to share with you here? It says, if the person was Roman Catholic, who has a Jezebel spirit, a person who has Jezebel spirit and comes from the Roman Catholic background, okay, and religion, have them break all vows and dedications made over her to the Virgin Mary. All right? Just have them break them all. Have her destroy all statues of the Virgin Mary and statues of Jesus or any other religious figure or painting such as the Last Supper, Bleeding Heart, and Mary. If they were making vows or worshiping those images, it's kind of what they do. All right, we're not to make any graven images or other images of things in heaven or on the earth or under the earth. They need to sincerely want to be set free. And sometimes you can go directly against Jezebel, but other times it will be a fierce battle. The spirit will hide until you get under their skin in the battle. And the Jezebel spirit often hides in the marrow of the spine. Some people think that they also have the spirit of Kundalini, a Hindu spirit, that is a serpent of 7.5 coils living at the base of the spine. So when Jezebel comes out, she will come out with wailing and screaming. When you hear screaming during deliverance, it's most often Jezebel or witchcraft. And they kind of roll on the floor like a snake. You know, they twirl and they roll on the floor like a snake. And the main thing is, don't be afraid of the spirit. That's just a manifestation. Don't be afraid of the spirit. For the Lord Yahweh is on your side, always. So that is a little bit of a teaching on the Jezebel and Ahab spirit. A lot of it about Jezebel. This should be more on Ahab next time when we talk about Ahab. A little more things to notice. And I'll share with you a book that I have here by Sandy Fried, The Jezebel Yoke. Very good book. Okay. How to get free. All right. And how to recognize it. They're everywhere. Jezebel spirit. Okay, you guys have any questions?
Recap how you recognize Ahab spirit.
They're cowardice. They don't take authority. They give and allow the woman to take the authority for them to deal with situations. They kind of just sit back. They're kind of lazy. They don't do much.
And you said they have been abused also coming up?
It doesn't really say that in this, but
Just
I
wondering,
would say probably.
What would their root issues be?
The
If
root
they're cowardly,
issues.
lazy, not
They
angry.
probably don't do nothing, because she
I
doing
would-
it all.
I would think that they have overpowering mothers, and
Mhm.
like she said, one of them was their mama boys.
Right, they're mama's boys. The mamas did everything for them. They don't learn to walk in authority because they were catered to so much. And they lose their manhood because maybe they didn't have a true male figure in their family who took control, who knew his authority, and saw that order be established in their family. You asked. You're like, what do you mean?
Okay.
So, but it doesn't say that they were necessarily abused. They could be, but it takes their power away from them. I think it's a possibility.
But you're saying they're basically just men that just sit back and let the women do everything.
Basically.
And if she got a Jezebel spirit, she's going to control everything.
And even if they try to stand up, they are shot down, and their
Right.
manhood is cut because they know.
She tears them up.
Yeah, she tear them up one side and down the other.
I'll read a little more real quick, because there was a lot on Jezebel, not a whole lot on Ahab, but the characteristics of Ahab's spirit. Real quick, passive versus aggressive. Okay, the character traits are passive. They're over merciful. They're not over legalistic. They walk away from people. They don't walk over people. They avoid confrontation.
Yep.
They're not in your face.
You know who I don't like.
They're peacekeepers. They're not peacemakers. They're peacekeepers, but they're not peacemakers.
Because they don't want to
They're
fight.
appeased. They're appeased.
They're appeasers. Passive personalities are notorious for being peacekeepers. They want the temporary immediate gratification of keeping the peace at any price, rather than making peace by boldly dealing with the issues at hand, which would result in more permanent long-term gratification, like Martin Luther King.
They're going to compromise.
Right.
What did you say about
They don't want to fight.
Huh?
What did you say about Martin?
This is like Martin Luther King, meaning he was a peacemaker. I mean, when you think about it, he saw injustice. He said, we're not going to have peace until we deal with this, the civil rights issues, okay? So they were creating for us to have peace, where we have no more injustice. That's peace. Their Ahab spirits grumble under their breath versus those who are not Ahab spirits, who openly or verbally, expressive, aggressive, and abusive even. They don't mind being wrong, as long as you approve of them. They don't mind being wrong, versus refusing to ever be wrong. They don't mind being wrong. The opposite is people who don't have Ahab spirit may have too much pride. They will never admit that they're wrong. So, yeah, Ahab spirits, they don't mind being wrong.
But basically, you want a man without the Ahab spirit, but you want one that's balanced and not.
Yeah, you want a
the other
strong
side
man, a
of
tender
being-
warrior. What can I say? Just a tender loving warrior. You want a tender warrior. You want to see people who understand humility, but at the same time they know when to speak and what needs to be said.
And take charge of their
Taking
family.
charge. Yeah, that's what I love my husband about.
So basically, he ain't doing nothing.
Right. You got it. You ain't doing much at all. No. They have a lot of fear. They have fear. They're operated and they're controlled by fear. Fear of non-acceptance. Okay? Ahab spirits have a fear of non-acceptance. That's different from the fear of rejection. Okay? They have a fear of not being accepted. While passive people who will do almost anything to gain acceptance, aggressive people who are always insecure and often wounded people, they have a huge fear of rejection. And their actions come out of an attack mode because they are determined never to experience rejection again. But passive people are not so. Passive people do almost anything just to gain acceptance. Okay? They just want acceptance. It's not necessarily that they are afraid of rejection. That's a different fear. Low self-esteem for Ahab spirits. Okay? They have low self-esteem versus... that low self-esteem is just clothed in niceness. They have low self-esteem being because they're nice. Passive people, they're very, very nice. Too nice. Low self-esteem people who are not Ahab spirits have low self-esteem. They're clothed in fear of more hurt. They're very, very afraid of more hurt, and that's why they are so aggressive, and not like an Ahab spirit who is passive. Okay? Ahab spirits have fear of what people think of them. They care what people think. Hence, wanting to be accepted. I mean, if you have a fear of non-acceptance, you're going to have a fear of what people think of you.
Right.
Okay? My dear
Fear
wonderful...
of man.
Yeah, my dear husband has no problem with that. I love it because he has no fear of people, of what they think. None. At all. He doesn't care. He will tell you like it is. And people who... Here, I'll read this. The fear of man totally blinds most passive people. They spend amazing amounts of energy trying to please everybody, even those they don't know or those who could not care less about them. Okay? So those are kind of a few of the major characteristics of Ahab spirit. They're passive. The main key is they're very passive. Okay? They are not aggressive. All right? All right, y'all. Thank you so much for joining us, and you can join us again for next week's teaching. Every Wednesday at 7, we have the Spirit Realm Realities class, and you can always share questions and join us on YouTube and share your thoughts, and we will reply.
Tell everybody our name of our ministry.
Oh, our name of our ministry is Etzayim Temple
I think it's Shalom.
and Energy Temple.
It's gone.
This
Yeah.
is gone?
Yeah, it's gone.
How long ago, you know?
Just a
now.
second. Just a second. We
Just
just
a
started
second.
this thing, so.
Software update. Oh, I hate that. It's still, no, it's gone. Okay. All right. So that is that. I hope it's saved. So right here, I'll just say, SIM Temple and Energy Center is our ministry. I actually had a recording on Ustream. I don't know if it worked, but I think it did. SIM Temple and Energy Center in Shreveport, Louisiana.
That's how
SIM.
S-I-N.
Chaim. I'll say it like Hebrew. Chaim. That's S is tree, Chaim is life. Tree of life. Chaim. Tree of life.
How do you spell that? How are you going to spell that? Type that in.
ETZHAYIM. Or just say tree of life.
You just don't
But you
get
can
it.
type in tree of life?
You can type in tree of life.
Well,
You'll find it.
somebody asked me, and I was like, I don't even know. This guy is Vincent.
Right.
I was
I
trying
say
to
You
yes,
gotta look
I
at
say
that.
it.
to get people to come.
I say SIM to you every time you come. You just, that's what I said, you just don't
Like I am
catch it on
done.
there.
I'm listening to what you're saying, but you speak.
You can call us at 918-955-7971.
We don't know how to write it.
Right,
You know what I
and you
mean?
can find us
Say,
at
why, when
530
you
Prison
take one,
Place, Shreveport,
it's on the
Louisiana,
flyers that we've been giving you, it's on the
I've
cards.
given them,
God bless you.
I've given them out already. I gave it to them. I just told them.
Etz, E-T-Z, Etz, and then Hayim. Etz is tree, Hayim, H-A-Y-I-M, is
Let's see
life.
if this did
Tree
say.
of life.
So that's your
Yeah, cards to give you. Take another flyer.
Um,